I'm joined by two friends. Let's call one of them Scorpy and the other one David. Scorpy has a Twitch channel that's linked in the description, so go and check him out. Our plan was to build a working PC with Windows on it. After that, we would tear the toaster apart so only the hull is still intact and we could put the PC inside of it. Should be simple, right? It wasn't. So for the actual PC, we used an unknown mainboard that we randomly found. For the CPU, we decided to use an AMD FX 8320. And for the GPU, a GeForce GT 630. But of course the most important thing was that we had 16GB of DDR3 RAM, which is totally overkill, but who cares. For storage, I provided us with a 500GB HDD, and since the power supply is just too big for our toaster, we had to keep it externally. When I arrived, my two friends had already started on putting everything onto the mainboard. They even connected some buttons to switch it on and off or reset the PC. There was just one huge problem. We didn't have an output. The PC was starting, all the fans were working, and everything was going as it should have. But still no output. So we decided to split up the work. David and I would start working on the toaster itself, while Scorpio was trying to figure out what was wrong with our PC. The toaster wasn't that big, with it only being 43 by 22 by 21 centimeters and the main board being 19 by 23 centimeters, we didn't have that much space left, but it still worked out.
David hat leider schon die Ding. Du hast?
Glaube ich, hoffe ich. Aber ziemlich safe. Ich glaube, wir haben einen Anschluss vergessen.
Der da wäre?
Der hier.
Was macht der?
Prozessor.
Okay. Ja gut, dann machen wir.
Oh! Hey!
It looks like the only thing that was wrong was that we didn't connect the processor to power. After that, we could finally start the PC and see something on our screen. And after checking if everything in the BIOS was set correctly, we booted from the USB stick that had the Windows installation files on it. But of course, it still didn't work. Or so we thought. So we took a break with the PC still just showing a black screen and got back to work on our toaster again. After some time, we finally unscrewed everything, so we only had the main hull and other components we needed. This took us about 30 minutes, and meanwhile our computer was still working.
Warte. Da ist so ein Video so you remember our try to get the PC working?
Jungs.
Yeah, it finally did work. It just took 2 hours.
So the installation screen finally loaded, and we thought we could simply just install Windows and that will be it. And it was like that, except we did this whole installation process 3 times because we didn't take out the USB stick. So the PC was simply just booting from the USB again and again. And to add to that, we had to deal with the speed of this PC, which is just horrible. The footage you see is sped up by 12. This is how long this took to install. But in the meantime, we came up with an idea for the on and off buttons. We had a circuit board with the buttons already on it because they were built into the toaster. After that, we had to connect the wires from the PC to the circuit board and we would have a working on and off switch for our toaster. For that, we had to cut through the circuit that was used when the buttons still the toaster related things, but now we needed it to do something else, so we had to cut it. After that was done, it was time to solder the cables onto the circuit. When we finished, we had to think of a way to install the main board inside our toaster. We thought of screws but quickly disbanded the idea because it just wouldn't look good from the outside. That's why we decided to use glue, or to be more specific, epoxy. The reason we used this glue is that we attached some pieces of wood to our main board, so we didn't directly glue it onto the hole and damage it. This worked, but there was a huge problem that we didn't notice until it was too late. The main board was too big for the toaster. This really sucked, but we couldn't really do anything about it. So we made the best of it. Since the cover didn't fit, we had to cut it into pieces. In the end it fit, but it wasn't pretty. But that's not a problem as long as it can run some games. Or can it not?
Hello there, my name is Scorpy and I'm gonna show you some software and benchmark tests that we run on our toaster. But before we start, I have to mention that because we are using an older GPU, the GT630, which was released in May 2012, but we are using the latest version of Windows, we are not able to install the latest graphic card drivers because they don't support Windows 10 for some reason. In general, this doesn't cause problems when running games, but it may lead to lower FPS and we're not able to use the full power of the GPU. But let's ignore that and begin with our tests. First of all, of course, we had to test CSGO, the ultimate toaster test. So we're gonna join a bot match on Dust 2. And yeah. It's okay, Toasty, take your time. Oh, we're finally in. So, as you can see, I counted all the CPU cores and they're almost 100%. Yeah, running on 100%. And we get around 8 till 10 FPS on lowest settings with HD ready, so not even full HD. And yeah, it's kind of unplayable, to be honest. So finally back with VSync on and nothing changed except I wasted 5 minutes of my life, lol. In 3D Mark Firestrike we scored 648 points, of which are 675 points are graphics score, which is not very much, but the physics score is surprising me. It's pretty good, I guess. Well, it's more than I expected actually, and as you can see, it's not always running in its limited boost. Well, it's the CPU clock, but also the GPU clock. The GPU clock is almost always on his limit, while the CPU is kinda, yeah, getting it done. So that we've got the benchmarks done for now, let's get into some gaming tests. So the final game we ran on our toaster was Portal 2. Portal 2 is based on the Source engine, which also Counter-Strike is based on, and so it should be easier to take by our PC. But for our big surprise, this game ran much better than CSGO. So it was in an average of 60 FPS on pretty high settings, medium to high settings, and full HD, so 1080p. And so it's finally the only game that worked on our PC, worked fine on our PC and really playable. So we're pretty proud of that, I guess.
We know that it's far from perfect, but it was fun building it, and I hope you enjoyed the video too. We are planning on building a way better version in the future, but because of the current situation, it's not really possible. If you have any ideas on how the video could have been made better, feel free to leave some criticism in the comments below. Until then, see you next video. Bye!